The funniest Men in Black story is Dan Aykroyd's. Dan Aykroyd has been an avid UFO and alien enthusiast for a very long time. I believe it was when he was living up here in Canada. One night, he just got this strange message in his head that he had to go outside. He yelled to his wife, "They're calling me, I have to go outside." And when he left his house, he looked up in the sky and he saw a large pink spiral above the lakes. Apparently, dozens of people in the Great Lakes region reported seeing the same thing that night. Dan Aykroyd, of course, is a ghost enthusiast, and that's connected with his belief in aliens, I think. Once Dan Aykroyd was making a television show about alien disclosure, and he received a phone call from Britney Spears, of all people. He actually played her father in the movie Crossroads. Well, she wanted him to appear with her on SNL, and while he was on the phone with her, apparently a strange black Cadillac pulled up, and two uncanny, bald Men in Black figures got out of the car and stared at him with a very stern look. He looked away for a second, and when he looked back, they were gone. He described them as if they had just disappeared. Only a few hours later, while he was in the studio working on the show, a producer ran in and canceled the entire program, ordered everybody to go home. And Dan Aykroyd says that it was those Men in Black who ordered the show to be canceled. That's quite interesting. But there are so many strange stories like that. And the Men in Black, the threats that they make were actually kind of terrifying and really not polite at all. Once in the 1960s, a man was driving his car alone down an empty road, and he crashed into a flying saucer in the middle of the road. And right when it made contact with his car, the UFO disappeared. But there was a piece of metal that he found on the ground. He grabbed it and took it home with him. He apparently sent that off to a laboratory to be tested, and while it was off being tested, he was visited by two Men in Black figures at his front door who warned him to get that piece of metal back, saying, "If you want your wife to keep looking as pretty as she looks, you'll get that piece of metal back." It's pretty strange that these Men in Black seem to know that he collected this piece of metal like they were there, but they didn't know that he had sent that piece of metal off to be tested. So how did they know that detail? How did they see him collect the metal? Because he would have assumed that they knew about the piece of metal because the laboratory that he sent it to told some sort of agency about it, and that agency sent people to talk to him. But if that was the case, they would know that he didn't have the metal. So again, it's sort of like these figures can see through windows of time. Like they can watch the events as if they're literally there. They can watch the events unfold in real time. But they don't know all the details around it, just what happened at the event itself. It's so bizarre. So they're not quite time travelers, because if they were, they would have just interfered with the event while it happened. They would have confronted that person at the scene, told him to never tell anybody before he even made it back home. But it's like they can't interfere with the event itself. They can just witness it, like through a looking glass or something. The strangest theory, I think, and this is just sort of something that I've pieced together, but I've always found that aliens, ghosts, shadow people, Bigfoot, cryptids, all those sorts of things, it seems like they're connected phenomenon. Not like they're all the same thing, but that they're related in some way. There's a certain phenomenon known as skinwalkers, and it's like around these skinwalkers, the craziest supernatural events seem to happen. And a skinwalker, if you don't know, is some sort of like ethereal or ghost being, like otherworldly being, that literally wears the skin of different animals, like usually wolves or coyotes. And they're known to be able to run very fast, and they act extremely supernaturally, kind of like a Bigfoot. People have shot them and have been unable to injure them with guns. So creepy. Well, the way that these creatures seem to wear human skin like a suit, I almost wonder if this is not just an advanced version of a skinwalker. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's one Men in Black encounter that tops them all. This guy, he was lying alone in bed one night when all of a sudden he felt himself being levitated above the bed. He couldn't move, but he could hear a telepathic message being communicated to him. He said that the message told him that he was being warned to never talk about UFOs again, that they know that he's avidly looking into them and trying to figure out the secrets of the universe. They warn him essentially as if they're men in black, that they can wear human skin like a suit, and they'll hunt him down and they'll punish him if they find him. And he says in one of these times that this happened, because apparently it happened more than once, he could see a shadow figure in his room. And the shadow figure perfectly fits the normal outline of a man in black, with the hat and the suit that was tied right up to his neck. I used to see a shadow man when I was a child. He seemed to live in my closet. I don't really tell many people about this because I don't really think much about it, and it doesn't really come up in conversation that much. But I actually found out while listening to a story on the podcast from a woman who saw a shadow man and didn't even know what a shadow man was. Well, it reminded me of this shadow figure that I saw. He used to wear a flat brim hat with a flat top. And he sort of looked like an 1800s preacher with his suit tied all the way up to his neck. Not that I could see the suit, I could only see the outline, but it was so tight around his shoulders and his chest that you could just tell that it was buttoned all the way up to his neck. Apparently, this is a specific type of shadow figure known as a hat man. So I saw a hat man. Well, what if a man in black is a hat man wearing dead human skin? Like a higher energy, a higher vibrational, more powerful version of a shadow figure. I know that sounds really crazy, but I just thought it was so weird that I managed in a few weeks' time to find several sources that seemed to corroborate my sort of vision of this hat man figure that also fit this men in black description. Take from that what you will. Let me know in the comments below what you think.